So you are at that point where you've got too much work to do, and you've got to make a decision now. Look, am I going to appoint someone to come and help me, or am I going to outsource this to a virtual assistant? Now, in this new connected virtual world, I think it's become a lot more feasible and a lot more almost acceptable to make use of something like virtual services or virtual assistants. However, you've probably never done this before. It's going to be a new journey. And you may be feeling a little bit unsure about where to start, what to consider, and who you can approach. So in my little experience that I've got with this, virtual assistants offers a lot of benefits, but it also may very well be not for you or your business. So today we discuss all those important aspects that you must be considering when you want to make use of a virtual assistant. And we share some practical examples of what works well and what does not. So let's get into today's show.
This is Propulsion, the podcast for forward-thinking and driven and ambitious financial planning professionals. It is the catalyst to the exponential growth of your financial planning practice, your business, or your franchise. This is where professionals come in order to learn about the latest technology, to learn about best practice when it comes to running and managing their business, as well as marketing, sales, relationship building, the best and most valuable interviews with local and international guests, and a whole host of other things. Without any further ado, here is your host, Francois du Toit.
I'm going to introduce you to Henry Walton, who last night for a moment was Watson. I don't know how I made that mistake. Luckily, I picked it up before he could pick it up. But Henry, warm welcome to Propulsion Live this morning.
How you doing? You could have got away with getting my name wrong. I would never have known.
No, I don't know why. When I read through the description, I went, but somewhere I'm sure I wrote Watson because it was Walton in my description. But then I was like, so I go back and in the title, it says like the title and goes featuring Henry Watson. But the thumbnail was right, the description was right, everything was right. So I don't know why that happened.
It's got a good ring to it. It's fun.
Yeah, it does work, and it does sound like you know, Mr. Sherlock. So exactly. That's all good. Anyway, just a warm welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining me. You're joining all the way from Cyprus, so I think it's a little bit earlier there than it is here. So thank you.
An hour later.
Is it later? Oh, fantastic. No, I felt bad for making you get up. Now I don't feel bad anymore. So that's good. Henry is the founder of AVirtual and PrimePixels, which is two companies we'll be talking about this morning. And we'll get a little bit into the story later on, but I want to jump right into sort of when we talk about things like we've been talking on the show a lot about outsourcing. And I've been encouraging people to say, look, I mean, you're going to get to a point where you feel like there's too much work for you, but you can't either one afford to appoint somebody like on a permanent basis, or you may be in a situation where you just don't have enough work for such a person. So there's too much work just for you, but there's not enough work to keep somebody busy full time, and that is usually a sort of a clear indication. But because of those conversations, obviously what comes up in South Africa specifically is like, but where do I find a virtual assistant and what do we do, et cetera, et cetera. So that's sort of what we want to get into today. But my first question to you is like, when does outsourcing make sense? And on that question, I want to ask you like, you know, who is it really for? Because is this for everybody or is this just for certain people?
That's a really good question. I mean, in some ways, even the term is slightly problematic, right? Because, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, I mean, outsourcing as a term would be used for larger companies, and was, I guess, a little bit of a dirty word as well. Sometimes, it was synonymous with poor quality, but in reality, small businesses, sole entrepreneurs have outsourced all the time. They just use freelancers. So I think, who is it for? When is it for? I mean, it is for every type of business. And it really, I think you nailed it on the head when you said when things are finding too much. I mean, you've got to look at finding a solution for that. And your solutions are hire someone in-house, get freelancers, or outsource, for want of a better word, to a different company. And then I think, depending on the stage that your business is at, the role, how much you value flexibility, how diverse the role is. I think we find a lot of the time, a lot of the clients that come to us, the reason why they outsource elements of the work is it's generally not one person. And hiring one person in-house is very expensive. And let's say a virtual assistant or marketing manager as an example, it's very rare that they're really good at all the things that you need. So in the stages that most businesses are at, and especially in kind of uncertain times, flexibility is probably valued above all else. So when you can provide, flexibility to companies, but exceptional services across a range of different roles, you're providing something that isn't actually achievable anywhere else. You can't get it with freelancers in the same way you can't get it in-house. So when you have a range of different needs, when the budget's tight and you value flexibility and there's some uncertainty, then it's a very, very good way to go.
Yeah, and you make me now think, I never even thought about this, is that it's often if you want to, I'm sitting with similar things where there's actually a range of things that needs to be done, but typically those things are done by one person. So not all of them, like each thing that needs to be done is done by a person, and you can't employ for all of them. And you need a diverse range of things, like whether it's marketing or editing or whether it's like whatever it may be. But if you look at something like outsourcing this to a virtual assistant like yours, obviously, then you are able to get access to different people, and you have flexibility because you can up your hours, you can down your hours, you can reduce your hours, you can do all sorts of things, and you can use different things at different times. So which I think is quite important. Just which areas of a business, Henry, is really the best to outsource? If I'm a small business, right? Because that's what you guys also focus on, if I've got it right. You focus on the small business. Like, which areas have you seen are probably the first ones that people start outsourcing? And if I say outsource, I mean to a virtual assistant of some sort. And which ones are probably the best to start outsourcing when you haven't done this before?
Sure. So administration is obviously the big one. And this is sometimes low-level administration, but actually a lot of the time it's client interfacing as well. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs where they get a virtual assistant, and the virtual assistant will do kind of remote front of house. They'll do client onboarding. They'll interact with the clients in a way that possibly the company owner doesn't need to. Customer service, customer support is a big one as well. Social media is a huge one. So, marketing and administration are the two big ones. And just a quick one, I think when we talk internally in our company, when we talk about virtual assistants, it's very hard to say the difference, but it's actually, we always talk about virtual assistants as in the kind of not a person, as in a range of activities. Because I think sometimes, again, even the term virtual assistant, we tend to use executive assistants just because of the type of people that we have, is kind of synonymous with this person that perhaps hasn't got much experience or hasn't got particular skills in a certain area. And for us, that's not true. There is definitely the lower end of kind of admin administration, but it's not that so much for us.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, there's like, it's always like, what are the things that work well, and where do we go, and where should we start, etc. And I take your point. It's about virtual assistants and not virtual assistants. Or the person. It's about the services that you can deliver virtually and the support that you can deliver virtually. Just before, I want to talk a little bit about the pitfalls. But before we do that, I want to just quickly the background of AVirtual, right? So when did this start and how did this start? So because I just want to give people a sense of how long you guys have been around and that you're coming from a place of like, look, I mean, we've been doing this now for a while before we get into the pitfalls thing.
Sure. So we've been around for 7-8 years, probably one of the top 2 or 3 providers for the UK market. But also, I think as a recruiter in South Africa for virtual assistants, we employ over 300 people at the moment. We've done it for a long time. It was started, I guess, like a lot of businesses, because we've run a few businesses and had large businesses before, and we've always needed this solution, and it's not out there. We've spent a lot of time on Upwork, trying to find good people, hiring people, trying to get those, those people to work well together. It wasn't there. And obviously you can go and find, perhaps a virtual assistant to help with some admin or some personal admin, but they typically didn't have the structure around them, like HR, client service, wellness programs, peer-to-peer support, training. They hadn't gone through a serious vetting process. So even the kind of vetting part, was time intensive when you're trying to do a whole lot of other stuff. So, we thought, well, why not do it ourselves? And it started off really like that, and then it snowballed pretty quickly. AVirtual became market leader pretty quickly. We started PrimePixels, the marketing arm of that, about 2 years later. That grew over the last 24 months, has grown exceptionally quickly. We've got a really great internal team, so great managers. Our chairman, Andrew Valentine, was the owner of Streetcar that sold to Zipcar in the US, very experienced in terms of growing and then scaling companies. So there are lots of, I guess, smaller companies out there and boutique companies, but we're pretty ambitious in what we're trying to do, the scale of it, but also our obsession with quality, I think really sets us apart.
Yeah. So in this journey, and it's actually great to know that you weren't one of those companies that started during, the pandemic and lockdowns and all sorts of things, because there suddenly was a need. You've been doing this a long time before the pandemic was even a thought, or even anybody knew it was coming, or it was going to happen. So in this time, from the time that you started up till now, what are some of the pitfalls that one should look out for? Because surely there's certain things that you think you get a virtual assistant probably, and it's just going to work. So what are some of the things that you see like maybe then this is not such a good idea for someone?
So I think support structure around the virtual assistant or around the remote employee is incredibly important. We have put a huge amount of work into our culture, remote culture. We've been fully remote for the last 5 years. And it takes a lot of work and effort and passion and the right values to keep a remote workforce engaged and productive and happy. And ultimately, this model doesn't work if you have staff that really don't genuinely care about their clients. So I think one is looking at the infrastructure around the resource is incredibly important. Things do go wrong. People get sick. People, change. Maybe they get another job. And having that structure around them so that the service that you provide to the clients is always uninterrupted is hugely important. Also things like IT support. We, in some ways, for the remote employees of the remote resources, we act as a kind of payroll facilitator, HR facilitator, IT support facilitator, so that you don't have to have any of those annoyances with kind of managing someone or recruiting someone or sorting someone out when they've got issues. So that infrastructure is hugely important. Personality fit is almost number one. And it's a hard thing to get right. And we always laugh with clients when we chat to them and say, right, we're going to match you up with the right person, because it's very hard to explain. And I think you only really get that from experience. We've placed over 2,000 people in small businesses over the last 7 years. We've spoken to thousands and thousands of businesses at different stages and personalities. If you get the personality fit right, you can always get over the kind of the bumps in the road, and there are bumps. It's not flawless. We're dealing with people here, so you have to invest in those people. And just because it's remote, it's not it's not a robot. It's not something that is disconnected from your business. So we spend a lot of time with our clients helping them to understand how to bring remote people into their company and how to work with them. So yeah, when you get the personality fit right, everything else is much, much easier. If you get that wrong, it goes wrong very quickly.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about how do you treat a virtual assistant? I'm talking about manners and treating them well and being courteous and, but I mean, like, do you treat them as a service provider, or do you treat them like you would an employee, or like what is that dynamic like?
You ask me how should you, or how do people?
No. Okay, so I mean, we can talk about how do people, but also how should, if you want this to work well, what is the best way? Like, do you treat them just as, oh, they're outside and I'm paying you and you got to, versus somebody that works for you, part of your culture, your values, all of those kind of things. Like, what is the practice?
As soon as we provide someone and we match them up, we always say to people, this person's now part of your team. They're part of your company. And if you want to maximize their potential, you have to do that. You bring them into your stand-ups, you bring them into your cultural initiatives. You always get the best results that way. It's actually nicer for the client as well. It's quite a strange thing to have someone at the on a end of a digital screen that you don't want to have a conversation with, or you don't want to, you're not happy to spend even just 5 minutes a week with. It's not going to work well. So they're an employee. They are an employee on a flexible contract and on hours that you can scale up and down, and with a whole load of added benefits that you don't normally get. But they're an employee. And I think when people get that right, they become uber reliant on them. And often they go through this transformation where it's like, oh, and then kind of the relationship opens up on both sides and they become absolutely pivotal to that business.
And then, I mean, does that then also lead to people typically giving more? Obviously, I mean, if I can sort of, assume from what you're saying is that because of that reliance, now I give more and more things to that person to do, or to a service provider such as you, because maybe my person that I work with isn't focusing or specialized in a specific area, but there's somebody else that maybe, and then typically you start using more of this. But also, is there a point where people would go like, okay, now there's enough, I'm going to stop using the virtual services and then rather employ someone? Does that happen? How often does that happen?
It happens. So we have something called a buyout, where clients essentially take the resource off and employ them directly. It happens once every 3 months, and we've got over 300 clients on retainer, so not that much. I'm thinking of one client, and he won't mind me talking about him because he talks about us a lot, but a guy called Derek Notman in the States, who's quite an influential IFA. And I remember he came into us maybe 3 years ago on a 15-hour social media package, very dubious, I don't know. But he was in the States, he knew Cape Town, he loved Cape Town, and he's been with us for about 3 years, and has, that 15 hours at times has gone to the equivalent of kind of multiple full-time people, and uses it for every aspect of his business. He's talked a lot about, that kind of journey, that flexibility. So yeah, it grows. That's part of, that's part of it. I think the other thing is when people get the benefit, they typically don't want to lose the benefits of flexibility and agility. Like, that doesn't normally go away in business, right? So there's very few times where someone goes, oh, we've got to now take this person in-house, but it does happen occasionally. Okay.
And then, so if you really want to communicate well with somebody virtually, I mean, I feel like often, so I've got 2 employees in my business. They're both, well, one is my wife and one is my daughter. So my wife just sits right next to me or just in the next room, but my daughter is over the other side of Joburg. So, I often find it frustrating to go, not to talk to my daughter, she's awesome, but to go on a Zoom call, book time and have, sort of these virtual meetings to convey what we need to do. Is that the only way that one can communicate, or what is the most effective way to communicate with a team that's virtual? Because I think we all zoomed out, we're all tired of Teams and all these kind of things, and that's why we enjoy the convention so much. But what works best? Like, what is the most efficient way? I mean, obviously there's also, and I'll talk a little bit about when you start, but there's a time that it'll take to get to know one another. But once you do, what's the most effective ways you found to communicate and go back and forth?
It might not be the most enjoyable, but you said efficient. It is the most efficient way. And I think especially for the types of things that we focus on and the types of things that typically people use virtual assistants or remote social media managers, for. I think if you need to do very high level creative or strategic thinking, it's very hard to replace that getting in a room together and getting the whiteboard up. And but for the type of things that we do and efficiency, it's Zoom, calls, emails, the normal thing. We try and encourage people to have calls and not just do everything on email or on WhatsApp. So we still do try and encourage at least once a week, even if sometimes the client doesn't want to. It can be quite easy to keep firing stuff off sometimes. But, jump on a call, connect, do an icebreaker, talk about, how's life going, and, then maybe look over the tasks and the activities for the week or the next week. But in this business, it's remote. So for us, that's definitely, in terms of saving time and efficiency, that's the best way.
Yeah, cool. Then just around the services. So I think you can sort of split services into two categories. I won't talk about the types of services, but if you look at them overall about how people think about virtual assistants, is that there's the standard things that comes to mind. And I think we mentioned some of them. But if we can maybe just what are the most prominent things again for people that they outsource, specifically when they start off? Because I think a lot of the people watching today and they'll watch the recording is considering to do this. It's not something they're already doing. So what are some of the first things and the standard things almost that would do? And then I want to know about things that's fantastic for virtual assistants and it's perfect for that, but people typically don't think about those.
Sure. So the obvious ones are financial admin. So invoicing, debtor chasing, with programs like Xero and Receipt Bank or whatnot, CRM management, client onboarding, calendar management, email management, client service and kind of escalation of client inquiries or client issues. Those are probably the main ones. And then there's also a lot of, within administration, there's a lot of project management as well. So for people that are doing perhaps events and need, there's a 2-3 month build up, there's a lot of project management around the admin and logistics of that, whether it's dealing with suppliers or travel booking. So that's probably the main stuff on the virtual assistant side. And then social media management, posting, content creation. And interestingly, I think when people think about virtual assistants, they do tend to veer towards the admin part. But really what we're talking about here is remote roles and flexibility and being able to kind of tack into a whole bunch of different services. So for IFAs and for business coaches of who we work with a lot, LinkedIn is often a really, really big one. So everyone knows that they should be producing content and networking. It's hard. It's a lot of time, and to do it effectively, again, it takes a few people. To get LinkedIn campaigns working, it's not really one person. It's not a virtual assistant. You've got to have someone that can strategize it. You've got to have someone that can write really great copy. You've got to have someone that can actually design the ads. If you want to do in-mail, you've got to have someone that understands paid. It's 3 or 4 people. So those are the main ones. And I think often people start thinking about admin and then, that we need that. And then often kind of segue into a lot of the marketing aspects as well.
And what are some of the things? So yes, there's the social media thing. And I agree with you. Like when I thought about this, it was all because I've got a pain as far as admin and certain things around that goes, right? So it's taking my time away from things that I should really be focusing on. Social media for a lot of people still today is like, oh, it's a nice to have. I'll do it one day. I'll get there. So it's not the first thing that they would probably think of, although this is perfect for that. what other kind of things are there that possibly people are not like, this will be great to use a virtual support system or service to do certain awesome things that you might not be thinking about?
So another big one, and I think we pride ourselves on this, is our sales team. We have an exceptional sales team. Typically, when we get a lead, we call that lead within about 7 seconds. And when we've done mystery shopping around other partners, you can submit a lead and you might not hear back for 2 days, and then you get a proposal another day later. And the reason why we're so good at that, I think, is because it's a competitive market, but it's the same in every market. You can't afford to sit on leads. And typically with solo entrepreneurs, we all like the creative ideas and we like getting that stuff done, and we want the business, but tend not to be very good often at sales or sales admin. So there's nothing that can replace the company owner or founder, doing a call and building that relationship and doing the sale. But the admin around it, if you haven't got automated workflows in a sales CRM like HubSpot or Infusionsoft, Salesforce, there's a lot of admin, sales admin, of chasing up, following up. That sales call is not done in a call. It's done on that kind of nurturing around the leads. That can take a lot, and typically it's not something that people enjoy at all. So sales admin, I would say, is another great role.
Yeah, that's something I would never have thought of. So thanks for that, Henry. Then I want to go into a bit of a quick fire round. There's 4 questions I want to ask you, right? And it's like, in the best, shortest way that you can answer these questions. 1 words are not allowed, but you are allowed to use maybe 2 or 3 sentences. I did not prepare you for this. So,
okay. All right, let's go.
So let's go. This is all about, I want to go a little bit of a deep dive on virtual assistants. So there's a couple of questions I want to ask you. So I'm confident you've got this. So the first question is, what makes a great virtual assistant?
Proactivity, organization, and communication. Those 3.
Awesome. Then what skills and qualities are important?
Proactive.
That's the same.
Good communicator, personable as well, and interested.
Very important. And then this is a big one. Like, how do I match with the right person? So if I come to AVirtual, I speak to you, I speak to Kristen, whoever I speak to, and I say, this is my need. Whose responsibility is it, and how do I match with the right person? Maybe that's going to be a bit of a longer answer.
So 1, trust the company that you're working with, because they will have done this far more than you have. Again, we've done it for 2,000 people. You might have done it once, and then interview them. And it sounds like a simple thing, but often people will go, okay, I'm not, interview them, make sure that you're happy with them, ask them questions about their background, and so like you would with any employee.
Awesome. Then who manages this person, this virtual assistant or virtual assistants team then, if you will?
You do. They are part of your company just for a set number of hours per month, but they are also managed internally by our organization. So we have an HR department, client services department. They sit in pods with the pod leader. But yeah, they're your employee, and you manage them how you want. Yeah,
awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about AVirtual specifically now. Tell us a little bit, Henry, how does your services work? Do you offer services? Derek Notman is that's how I got onto you, as I said earlier. Oh, yeah. He introduced me. I contacted Derek. I know him. And I know we've chatted about this. He was on my podcast before we had this show. And I reached out to him to say, like, I'm looking for people, like, who do you use? And then he put me in touch with you guys, because I know he always goes on about his team in Cape Town. So, and that's the important thing, I think, for everybody on the call to understand as well, that the people that work for this is based in South Africa. They're not, it may be a UK-based business, but the team is based actually in South Africa. So just a little bit, how does your services work? And then I'll ask you some more questions around that.
Sure. So very simply, we have short-term retainers, and they're set by a certain number of hours per month. So average sign-on package for us is about 25 hours a month. and that's the time that you get of your virtual assistant, once monthly. You can upgrade or downgrade the package at any time. So let's say, for example, you're 2 weeks in and you're throwing loads of work at your virtual assistant and you've run out of time. You can either early renew the package, so the package just starts again and the renewal date changes. You can upgrade the amount of hours if you needed to. You could also downgrade the amount of hours. And then we also do add-ons as well. So maybe once, every 3 months, you might need to kind of do a top up. It's almost like a mobile phone kind of company with bundles. Full transparency in terms of how time is spent. So we use a program called Harvest for time tracking. So you can get a timesheet daily if you wanted, or weekly or monthly. And out of your plan, you can also access other services across the organization. So let's say, for example, you're working with your virtual assistant and they've got their monthly items that's ticking along and always happening, but then you need a lead magnet created. So you can chat to your virtual assistant, go, right, I've got this idea, I've got a loose, vision of what I want it to be. They can introduce you to the creative team and you can work with the copywriters out of your existing plan. Yeah. Don't do any long-term retainers. So month 1, instant cancellation, and month 2 and on 30 days notice.
Cool. And then, any guarantees and maybe SLAs and kind of things like, because I know just from my experience in the last 2 weeks specifically is like you guys are phenomenal on following up and you're very responsive. You're not pushy. You're very what's the right word? Sorry, my English is escaping me in a second, but generous is not the word. The courteous, etc. So the way in which I've experienced you in a short period of time has been phenomenal. But do you offer guarantees? What are your SLAs? And then a big question around, I think, but I'll get into that. Let me first stop there. There's one other big question I want to ask you.
It's a really good question. So at AVirtual in month 1, we do offer money back guarantee. So if you were really not happy at all with the service, then you can cancel it immediately and money back guarantee. Typically that never happens. What occasionally happens is that someone might, after a while, decide that it's not the right person and the needs don't go away, but we can replace that person at no charge. And we cover all of the onboarding training, and we can normally do that within 48 hours. In terms of SLAs and kind of guarantees of, response times, it's really hard because we've got clients that go from 10, 15 hours a month to some larger companies that have the equivalent of kind of multiple full-time people with us. But typically, even though your VA is not working for you full-time, you can normally expect a response from them, again, depending on the size of the package, within an hour or 2. They might not be able to get to the task right there and then because they've got other clients and they're not your resource full-time. But generally speaking, within an hour or 2, and then they'll let you know when the task will be done. And again, this is why we're so big on communication, that if you get that right, then the rest of it's very easy. Other things we have something called the 10% rule. So a lot of this is cultural. So rather than trying to get, going off saying, okay, I'm going to go and do this job, I'm going to go and spend 5 hours of your time or your budget on this job and get it wrong. If you're unsure, get on a call. If you're still unsure, do 10% of the work, check, am I on the right line, and then finish it. So a lot of it comes from the training and support that we provide. And then otherwise, it's down to our recruitment, it's down to our history, it's down to the fact we don't do long-term retainers. And not having long-term retainers is honestly one of the biggest incentives for quality, because you've just got to be good. And if you're good, clients stay. And if you're not good, they go, and they go quickly.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. I'm not going to get into a story now, but there's stuff that I've experienced before where it's exactly that. Like if it's my internet service provider, for example, I've been with for 11 years, 12 years now, and it's month to month from day one. The others where I've been before, where it was 24 months, 36 months, I left them all. And I left with a bitter taste in my mouth. So these short-term things, I think, do work better. Then just quickly, what about information, confidentiality, privacy? Poppy, GDPR, all these kind of things, is that, because I think that's any financial advisor's main concern. They are so concerned about Poppy and stressed that somebody's going to see their info, or use their info, or their client's info, whatever it may be. So how do you do that?
Obviously adhere to Poppy in South Africa and GDPR in the UK. We often sign NDAs with our clients as well if they want us to. I mean, it's the same with all of our clients. Always has been that privacy is of utmost importance. We don't own any of the data or keep any of the data at all. So even when a client leaves, it's all of the data is transitioned back to the client. Some clients are more demanding on others in terms of what they want us to do and to sign. And that's fine. We're giving you the resource, so we need to fit in with your expectations, and if there's other things that we might need to sign or agree upon, then that's not a problem either. Yeah.
So how does one get started, Henry? If someone's interested to learn more, to see if this is a good fit for them, how can they get started?
So firstly, I'm really thanks so much about the compliments on our processes or experience so far. I mean, we really do try very hard. The first part, is we call it a sales call. It's not really, it's a consultation. Let's have a chat. Let's make sure that it's the right time, that we can deliver on what you want, and that we've got the right people. So really, the first port of call, and you can share my email address. Very happy for people to contact me directly. I can bring an account director in, and I'll jump on a call with them as well. I think especially for type things like this, I'm very happy to put my time in and to make sure people are being looked after.
Awesome. Good stuff. So I've got the website address on the screen as well. I'll also link it down below in the description. So avirtual.co.uk. I'll also link to PrimePixels, which is more the social media marketing and all that kind of stuff. So there's awesome services that they deliver there as well. And then I'm happy to also share with you that Henry and his team has agreed to offer 15% discount to Propulsion Pro members. So if you are a Propulsion Pro member, the standard rate's less 15% for the first 12 months, as far as I've got that, Henry. So thank you very much for offering that. We really appreciate it. We're a great bunch of people. They're good people to work with. We apply the Rule 6 of the All Blacks 10 rules. I won't share what that is, but we apply Rule 6. So if somebody wants to go and look that up. So a great bunch of people. But thank you very much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. There's some great insights and a good starting point for anybody who is considering this and looking for a solution. And just any final words from you?
No, just thank you very much for having me. I think you do a terrific job on this. It's very inspiring. So good job.
Thank you very much, Henry. Have a good time, and we'll chat soon.
Cool. Take care.
Thanks, man. Righty, so I hope that you enjoyed this morning's session. And remember, if you're a Propulsion Pro member, you get 15% off on the rates. And they are very affordable. Trust me, they are extremely affordable. It's crazy. It's definitely worthwhile checking out. And the flexibility that comes with this is the big, big thing for me as well. Not just from how much time or how much money you spend in a month with them, but also the different services that you can use and things and adding on. And that. So I think it's a amazing offer. So next week, my guest is Mickey Kambale from Innate. And we're going to tackle the important topic of replatforming. This is a big thing that I don't think we really necessarily know about and necessarily that we even think about, and would probably think that there will be an impact on our business, on the industry, the profession, as all the different asset managers are replatforming. So what does that even mean? What is the impact and all of that? So Mickey is my guest next week. So join us then. So we'll be back next week. Same time, same place. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper. And remember to raise the bar. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember to check out the live show, Propulsion Live, on YouTube every Friday at 7 a.m. South African time. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. That's propulsion.co.za/live. And please remember to subscribe, share with your colleagues, your friends, and anyone who may find value like you did in this podcast. Once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.